Tweet at Today SOR.
Now, to an exercise that is supposed to leave you flexible, agile and relaxed, and often does, yoga is one of the most popular ways to keep your body in shape, both physically and mentally, and help develop a sense of self-reliance and confidence. Who better to check it all out than Louise O'Donnell? Maybe I should do so myself, Louise. Old habits die hard. I thought I was still in the newsroom there, just coming up to that last break. Anyway, yoga, what is it?
Well, did you not see me bouncing into the studio there with all my...
Yes, flexible, agile and relaxed.
All my agility of a baby elephant. Yoga. Well, first of all, the Indians consider it a timeless science because it's evolved over thousands of years. And it's meant to deal with the physical and the mental and spiritual well-being of the body and the soul. And the Indians would consider it one of the 6 orthodox systems of Indian philosophy. And it's supposed to teach you by means of which you as a person can be united to and maybe in communion with the self, your body and your head. They say, you know, that it's like winning a battle. That if you go out to win a battle, a general will sit on the top of his horse and he'll say, well, where's the enemy and where's the terrain? So, and then plan a countermeasure. So in one way, your body is prime and you are planning a measure to keep your body prime and to hold back things that might bring your body literally to its knees. And because the mind functions, you know, through the nervous system. And a lot of yogas would say that your bones are more important, you know, than your muscles. And I mean, I am at an age now where osteoporosis is kind of a way of life. You know, our knees, our arms, our legs, our elbows, our knuckles, our backs, you know, so it
creaks
has
and wobbles,
creaks and wobbles, and not for good reason. Now, the particular yoga that I went to, because there are men, I'm sure there's people listening in, there are hundreds of different types of yogas, but the particular yoga I went to was Iyengar Yoga. And the purpose of this is to remove, according to Mr. Iyengar, who is 95 and as supple and as malleable as a lasso, lives in India, but he says it's to remove the weeds from the body so that the garden can grow. Liked that kind of idea myself, since I seem to be consistently in the winter of my life. And one of his greatest pupils was Yehudi Menuhin, and you'd think of the great violinist. And Yehudi Menuhin and wrote a big foreword in a book called The Concise Light on Yoga, about yoga, because Yehudi Menuhin said that the practice of yoga over 30 years had convinced him that one of the most fundamental attitudes to life have their physical counterparts in the body. And obviously, if you look at a violinist playing a violin, he is at one with his body, because it's his entire body that's giving you the music. It's his arms, his shoulders, his torso, his fingers, his hands with the grip on the wood. He's pulling the music through his head, in through his body, out of the violin. So it's an interesting thing to say. And he said, you know, that Mr. Iyengar was the best violin teacher he had ever had. So the yoga class I went to was that practice by Mr. Iyengar. And it's a technique for physical and mental illness, to protect the body generally, self-reliance and insurance, and of course associated with, because most Indian philosophies, like our own, are associated with higher powers, you know, that it's something to do with the sense of the other, that you're going, you know, that you're not just stuck to a linoleum floor, that you find patience and respect for life and truth, and that you have the breath and a calmness of mind, and that's the whole idea.
And you want this harmony between body and mind.
Yes,
so where did you go? What did you do?
So where did I go? So my body is a child, and I must look after it. Now, personally, it's a bit late. If you look at the way I'm spreading, and I'm as stiff as a poker. I am just going around like a creaking tin. And when I see people at bus stops, I don't know about you, Sean, maybe you don't, you're going around in a large car.
But I use the bus fairly frequently.
I know you do. But I know you use a bicycle as well. But when I go around and I watch people at bus stops and they have a mat under their arm, I kind of go into a massive decline, you know, and I feel that's it now, those lunatics going around with yoga mats, or I see people going out at lunchtime, because I really would be quite cynical about it. And I don't believe a word of it. And it's all a fad. And I don't really like it, and I've nowhere to start. And I kind of live in my head and my heart, and I don't really live in my body. But so I went along with a massive sense of cynicism, like I was way down with my own cynicism. And I went off to Monkstown to Eileen Cameron, who is an Iyengar teacher and master and extremely well qualified and was trained by Mr. Iyengar as a master craftsperson. And when I saw her, she looked like a gazelle. She opened the door and she has these lessons. Eileen Cameron, absolutely fabulous woman.
How long has she been practicing and teaching?
She's been practicing a long time. And, interesting, said to me that she had cancer. And I said, really, did you? And she said, oh, yes, in my 30s. But it doesn't define me. And she said, it just... this was one of the ways of getting over it, and that's how she got into it. Went and trained and is a teacher here for the last, I think, 25 years. Marvellous teacher, tall, gazelle-like, balletic. And she believes it doesn't matter what size you are, what shape you are, she can help you, and everybody should look after their body and come in. And I thought I'd be sitting in the same posture like somebody like those Indians who stay in the same place, for about 3 months, with looking like kind of half snakes. And I thought, oh God. But no, Iyengar Yoga was about being flexible. They use mats and foam blocks and belts and chairs and bolsters because we have all different heights, different widths, different postures and different lengths. So, and you take off your socks and shoes and you work in your bare feet. Now, it's about body movement. Graceful movement, lined movement. Like put your hands up onto your chin, Sean. If you put your hands,
come on.
Come on. If you put your hands up onto your chin, you control your hands. You stretch your hands out. You stretch arms. You create bridges, gaps, spaces. Your arms, your legs, your trunks. You use the wall. You raise. You lower. And somebody said, "Oh, I have a cramp," and she said, "Shake it out. Shake it out." There's no oohing and eyeing and I can't get up and I can't sit down, I'm in a terrible state. But the idea is that you lift the torso, you stretch out your fingers, you keep your torso straight, you sit on chairs, you move, you twist and turn, hands on wall, back against wall, you walk towards the wall, you keep your head up, you keep your shoulders back.
This sounds like a lot of activity. I remember doing yoga here. There was a woman called, I think Deirdre Ahern was her name. She worked here she left probably 20 years ago. And the greatest thing I used to feel about it was it put you to sleep. But you wouldn't get much sleep at what you were doing. I mean,
well, no, because Roy Keane said this was worse than a workout. Now, but that sounds as if we never stopped and the sweat was pouring out of us. No, you did it at the time you wanted. But she was trying to get you. She said you have to get your legs moving. So a lot of the women, and in fact the people who were 40, 50, 60 and 70 in the class, years of age, and they were keeping their muscles going. So your leg, they use belts to make your legs stretch, you lift your sternum, you connect with your breathing, you release your head down, you stop crouching over like crumpled paper, you stretch up your head, and if you want to kneel on your knees, you have foam to use, you use the foam and the belts and the buckles to create the spaces, because not everybody, as I say, has the same body, and not everybody has the same agility, and some people are good on their hands, some people are good on their knees, some people have a lot of arthritis.
And clearly this was something that people would have to go at a different pace depending on their physique, their age and so forth.
Yes.
Not like a spinning class where you hear...
not at all, where everybody's in competition.
Military and regimented and stuff.
No, not at all. And people do it at their own pace, their own shape, and she quietly went around and she knows every bone in your bottom and your body, and she's anatomically very on top of what she's doing, and her voice was informed and she didn't get on your nerves. And I felt that this would be, because I have a bad back, a lot of women do, from the bend and from having babies and then bending and stretching and in and out of cars and sitting at desks. And I just felt that you eased us into exercise, that you moved your back against the wall and stretched out your legs and stretched your thighs and bring your bottom in, and nearly what the nuns used to say years ago, stand up straight.
You'll have your ankle behind your head if you're not careful. No. So, but you met some interesting people.
Yes, I did. I met terrific people. But one of the people and you go for one story and you get another, but one of the people I met, I was watching a girl called Mary Claire Shaw, and she works as a PA, but Mary had an arm severed from above the elbow. So that meant that she had to use more blocks to balance herself when she was doing the movements, or when she was using the straps, to pull herself this way or that way. And the effort she put into that. And I said to her afterwards, Mary, what happened to your arm? And she said, well, I was born with my arm severed above the elbow. And she said I was probably better off because I knew nothing else. And I love coming here because without this, because I don't balance the way other people balance. And I've learned to balance, and I've learned strength of shoulder, and I beautiful young girl in her early 30s. And I thought, and me oohing and ahhing about my back and that I couldn't move at the wall and a bit dramatic about the whole thing. Oh, I can only do so much now. I have to sit down nearly and write a letter. And there was the beautiful Mary Claire Shaw with such effort and such grace. Just wonderful. Met Anne Daly from Esperanza Productions, wonderful documentary maker, who said, I can't live without my yoga. It gets rid of my anxiety. I love it. Gabriel Brocklesby, just a woman in her 60s who's travelled the world and the VSO, working in India and Pakistan and the Middle East, and who had an accident before Christmas in the pain clinic in Vincent's, and the relief she has got from her yoga was extraordinary. Met a wonderful woman called Lisa Russell, an American from Daytona Beach, who married a man from Donegal because she liked the 4 seasons in one day. I mean, wonderful people who got so much out of it and feel that it gives them something, because, you see, it raises the whole question about, and I learned this from the embalmers, we are creatures and we have stopped. The West is finished. We need to look to the East for what we're going to do. We sit behind desks, we eat too much, we eat the wrong food. There was a man yesterday, I think he was on with you, talking about putting one foot in front of the other. Our bodies are not paramount. In education, science and maths is number one. It's marvellous, but it's not enough. The arts don't get a look in, and when they do dance, which is what we do with our bodies all the time, which is very good for ADHD, for concentration, for rhythm, is not used. So this is an enormous problem. It's not just me going to yoga. I've said it to the Minister for Education. You have got to stop. Music has to be a major part and should be compulsory for all children. All children love to sing, love to play. Dance should be. I mean, why do we think that maths and science is enough? It's not. It's just not enough.
Music and singing, they're part of the school curriculum, are they not?
Yes, they are part of the school curriculum. But music, why do we say that this is compulsory and that isn't? Why can't music be as important as English or mathematics or dance
are you moving to
or
the point,
drama?
Marie-Louise, where you think something like yoga should be as central to the curriculum as music?
Well, it's music, yoga, dance, movement. People's bodies express pain and they also express joy and tragedy and love. And you only have to see the way musicians, as I was saying about Yehudi Menuhin, why would he be so connected with this? But as human beings, we move. And we've stopped moving, and we live in our heads. And if we don't live in our heads, as Ken Robinson says, we live out the side of our heads. It is so important, movement, for every aspect of the union with self and how you think, and even in the rhythm of our life. And so it raises a whole question about what we think is intellectual. What we think is good for us, and why the arts, for me, of which movement and music and poetry, because poetry is vocal movement, voice is movement, and we're all ticky, 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 and living in our heads.
Well, now, take us through some of the movements. Describe some of those things, because clearly this impressed you greatly.
Yes, because it had grace and poise, angular movement, stretching out, stretching down, using hands against the wall, spreading out fingers, spreading out toes, standing straight. Were you ever at a dinner party or at a drink stew? I can only stand for 3 minutes and I have to sit down. But she taught me how to stand where I didn't have this pressure on my lower back. Turning with the torso up, keeping the head up in between your ears. Now, one doesn't do it, but at least knowing about poise, making your body be straight and graceful with a sense of beauty and not bending over it, bending down with ease, using your hands above your head, stretching them out, using your hands and your arms in different angular positions. I was terribly impressed, and also doing it at a time and a way and a rhythm and a sense that you can take, and not feeling I'm a big lump, which I feel generally. And here's the big clothes now, they're all hiding our lumps after Christmas. I left it with because I'm very interested in the arts as a method as an education, and I think that they should be. They have been deprioritised and they have to be reprioritised. And I think there should be a revolution in education, not a reform. So I left it with my cynicism in my pocket as well, having gone in, with a kind of a cross and bone up when I saw somebody with a yoga mat. But I left thinking, now hold on a minute, this locks right into what you're talking about. An aspect of the circle I'm talking about in relation to movement and the arts. And I left standing a little straighter, and I left feeling it's possible for me to do that. And it's possible for me to stand and keep my chin up and keep my ears and keep myself poised and stop slouching across things and keep my shoulders back and stretch up my leg. And if I can't, use the chair for help, use a rope to help yourself. I was very impressed.
It sounds like you'll be back.
Oh, I'm going back. Now, so when I come in here, you're not going to recognise.
Well, I mean, I suppose
Besides the fact I'm going to become a wow of a lover. I don't know who the partner is, but you never know.
Well, many people will recall being told by their mother or their father, look, stand up straight, put your shoulders back and don't be there slouching.
Keep in your tummy, as she says. Would you press in your belly button till it hits the back of your spine? My God, my belly button hasn't seen my spine since the year of Methuselah.
Stop walking along like a man after a cattle kind of thing.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of common sense in this.
Oh, yeah, but also, and very atomic, very good for people who have bad shoulders and hips and knees. There was women there who couldn't, at the housemaid's knee I have, they couldn't kneel down. And now it doesn't happen overnight. After a few weeks, you do happen to become alive. And they're having a National Iyengar Yoga Day on Saturday, the 18th of January. And I'm not saying anybody who'd like to go along, it's free, and see does it work for you. You can contact them on Iyengar.
You better spell that now.
Iyengar. Iyengar organisation, Yoga Institute. IyengarYogaInstitute.com.
Right, so that's it, and that we'll be keeping a close eye on that. That's only next Saturday. It's coming up quite soon.
Yeah, it's coming up. They have a lot of people involved in it. And just before I go, there's Mr. Iyengar, 95 years of age. And there's something to be said for it.
Louise.
Well, I'll tell you what we need. We need to look to the east, because it's kind of fallen apart here in the west.
On that note, we say thank you and good luck. Back with more. I think it's about plastic surgery after this break.
Today with Sean O'Rourke on RTE Radio 1.